C. The excellence of teaching. 1. The evidential verses of the Quran. There is Allah saying, "Let them warn their people when they return to them, that they may take heed to themselves," in chapter 9, verse 123, which means to teach and guide. There is also Allah saying, "And when Allah entered into covenant with those to whom the book had been given, it was that it might surely be made known to men, and they might not hide it." Chapter 3, verse 184, which is a positive direction to teach. And Allah saying, "And truly there is a party of them that surely hide the truth, though they know it." Chapter 2, verse 141. It prohibits concealing, just as the Exalted One said concerning testimony, "And whoever conceals it surely causes his heart to sin." Chapter 2, verse 283. The Prophet said, "Allah did not give a learned man knowledge without also taking a pledge on account of it, similar to the pledge which he took from the prophets to explain it to mankind and not to hide it," i.e. his message. And Allah has said, "And who speaks better than one who invites people to Allah and does good?" in chapter 41, verse 33. Again he said, "Then summon people to the way of your Lord with wisdom and beautiful preaching." Chapter 16, verse 126. And Allah said, "Teach them the book and divine wisdom." Chapter 2, verse 123. As for the traditions, this part 2 of C, there is Muhammad saying when he sent to Mu'adh to al-Yaman, "Surely that Allah should guide one man by you is better for you than that you should have the present world and what is in it." The Prophet said, "Whoever learns a section of knowledge in order to teach mankind is given the recompense of 70 great believers." Isa said, "One who is learned and does good works and teaches is called great in the kingdom of heaven." The Messenger of Allah said, "When the day of resurrection comes, Allah will say to his worshippers and his people who take part in religious warfare, 'Enter the garden.' And the learned will say, 'By the excellency of our teaching they worshipped and carried on warfare.' Then Allah will say, 'To me you are as some of my angels. Intercede and your intercession will be accepted.' Then they will intercede and enter the garden. And this will only be by knowledge translated into teaching, not by passive knowledge which is not carried over into action." Muhammad said, "Allah does not directly take away knowledge from mankind after he has given it to them, but it goes away with the passing away of the learned. And whenever a learned person passes away, whatever knowledge he had passes away with him, so that remain only ignorant chiefs. They, when asked, give an opinion without knowledge, and they err and cause others to err." The Prophet ﷺ said, "On the resurrection day, Allah will burden with fire anyone who understands some knowledge and hides it. The most excellent gift and the most excellent present is a word of wisdom which you hear, which you fold to your breast. Then you carry it to a brother Muslim to whom you teach it, i.e. this word is equivalent to a year's worship," said Muhammad. He said, "The present world is under a curse. What is in it is cursed except remembering Allah and what he likes, either as a teacher or as a pupil." The Prophet said, "Truly Allah, his angels, and the people of his heavens and his earth, even to the ant in its hill and the whale in the sea, pray for the teacher who teaches people what is good." A Muslim does not actually do his brother Muslim a better service than to pass along to him a good tradition which he has received, said Muhammad. He also said, "A word of good which a believer hears, teaches, and practices is better for him than a year's worship." On a certain day, the Messenger of Allah went out and he saw two sessions. In one of them he saw they were petitioning and supplicating Allah, while in second they were teaching people. He said, "These are asking Allah, and if he wills, he will grant them their request, and if he wills, he will refuse them. But as for these, they are teaching the people, and truly I was sent as a teacher." Then he turned towards them and sat with them, i.e. the latter group. Muhammad said, "Allah sent me with guidance and knowledge just as the plenteous rain which comes to some land in which there is one plot of ground which receives the water and causes many herbs and much grass to spring up, and in which there is a second plot of ground which holds the water by which Allah benefits people. They drink from it, irrigate and plant, and in which there is a third section of bottom land which does not hold water and does not cause herbage to spring up. The first he mentioned as an example of one who receives benefit from his knowledge. The second he mentioned as an example of one who confers benefit. And the third of one who is refused both of these. Muhammad said, when a man dies, his work is cut off unless there are three things. First, knowledge by which one's benefited. Secondly, continuing alms. And thirdly, a virtuous child who prays for him. The guide to the good is like the one who does it, said Muhammad. He said, envy is allowable only in two instances. A man to whom Allah gave wisdom, who judges according to it and teaches it to mankind, and a man to whom Allah gave wealth and to whom he gave authority to spend it for good. Muhammad said, the mercy of Allah is on my successors. So somebody asked, who are your successors? He replied, those who revive my law and teach it to the worshippers of Allah. And thirdly, in section C, as for the records of the followers, Umar said, one who relates a tradition which somebody acts upon has a reward like that of one who performs that act. Ibn Abbas said, everything, even to the fish in the sea, ask for forgiveness for the teacher who teaches people good. And one of the learned ulama said, a learned man mediates between Allah and his creation, so let him be careful how he mediates. It's related that Sufyan al-Thawri arrived at Asqalan, where he stayed a while. Nobody asked him about anything, so he said, hire a conveyance for me that I may go out of the city. This is a country in which knowledge is dying. In truth, he said that because of his zeal for teaching and in trying to make knowledge remain in the country. Ata said, I visited Sa'id bin al-Musayyib while he was weeping, and I asked him, why are you weeping? He replied, there is no one who asks me anything. Somebody said, the learned are the lamps of their time. Everyone is a light of his time, from whom the people of his epoch seek light. Had it not been for the learned, mankind would have become like animals. That is, by their teaching, they cause mankind to rise from the level of beasts to the level of humanity, said Al-Hasan. Ikrimah said, surely this knowledge has a price. Whereupon someone asked, what is it? He replied, that you put it in the one who is fit to carry it and who will not lose it. Ihya ibn Mu'adh said, the learned are more compassionate on the people of Muhammad than their fathers and mothers. How is that? Demanded some. He answered, because their fathers and mothers keep them from the fire of the present world, while they, the learned, keep them from the fire of the last abode. It is said, the beginning of knowledge is silence, then hearing, then memorizing, then performance, then spreading it. It is said again, teach the ignorant person your knowledge and learn from the one who knows what you do not know. And surely if you do that, you will learn what you were ignorant of, and you will keep that which you knew. Mu'adh bin Jabal said on the excellence of teaching and learning, said, I saw it also transmitted by tradition as from Muhammad, learn knowledge, for in the sight of Allah learning is a reverential fear. Seeking it is a religious service. Studying it with another is an act of praising. Discussing it is religious warfare. Teaching it to one who does not know is almsgiving. Giving it to those who deserve it is an offering. It's a joy in privacy, a friend in solitude, a guide in religion, and that which makes you persevere in both good and bad times. It is a visor among friends, a neighbor among strangers, and a lighthouse on the way to the garden. By it he elevates people. He makes them leaders, masters, and guides in good, whom the guide to the good imitate, whose tracks they follow, and whose actions they attentively scan. The angels desire their friendship and stroke them with their wings. Everything green and dry ask for forgiveness for them, even to the great fishes and reptiles of the seas, and the beasts and cattle of the land, and the heavens and their stars. For knowledge is the life of hearts instead of blindness, and the light of eyes instead of darkness, and the strength of bodies instead of weakness. By it the worshipper reaches the stages of righteousness. By it the worshipper reaches the stages of the righteous and the high degrees. Meditation about it is equivalent to fasting, studying it with someone to spending the night in worship. By it Allah is obeyed, and by it He is worshipped, and by it His unity is declared, and by it He is magnified. By it one refrains from sin, and by it blood relationship is maintained, and by it the things that are permitted and those that are forbidden are known. It is the leader, and the religious works are its followers. The blessed receive it by illumination, the wretched are denied it. Let us ask for Allah for His success bringing aid.